Salutations, everyone, and welcome to our first webinar series for the Accelerator, Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. This is a system presentation. So we welcome you to wherever you are in the world, whatever language you speak, whatever culture that you come from. We're excited to have you join us. The diversity is an asset. And welcome to the cultural diaspora. We are your facilitators. We've got Jose, we've got the lovely Mary Gribbon, we've got myself. And we're excited to sort of facilitate this discussion today around imposter syndrome. So yeah, guys, this is a system presentation and we are the system. You know, the system is community. And our mission is to activate, educate, and support a decentralized global creative community in finding their purpose, growing their careers, and leading the future. Our objective today is to be able to share our stories, to be able to embrace our uniqueness, to defrag imposter syndrome. Here's a hint, y'all, it never goes away. And of course, to help you jam to great tunes. So here's the agenda for today. For the first 10 minutes, we're going to drop in. This is how we like to open the circle. Then we're going to talk a little bit about what is imposter syndrome. Then we're going to dive into why we suffer from it. Then we're going to talk about embracing it. And then we've got a special guest, Nicole Johnson, who's going to share a little bit about her story. Then we're going to dive into a group exercise where we're going to craft our story in 3 acts. And then we're going to dive into gaining confidence. And then lastly, we're going to end with the Systm Accelerator program. And we're going to have one of our members in our first cohort, Sergio, and he's going to share a little bit about his experiences. And then next steps, you know, if you're interested in joining, what that looks like, and how to stay connected with the community. So let's drop in, y'all. So the drop in is your name, your location, what do you do, and do you suffer from imposter syndrome, and how does it feel for you? I'll model that. I'm Keone Chong, and I'm in downtown Los Angeles. And what do? I am a system catalyst. I'm a partner there. Do I suffer from imposter syndrome? All the time. How does it feel for me? It feels like fear. It scares me. It constantly challenges me in a lot of the things that I do, and I have to think 2 or 3 times behind it and really address, like, where is this fear coming from? But for me, it feels like fear. It feels like this thing that's holding me back from taking the next step. And that's it. And I am complete. Now, what I'd like to do is open up the floor to some of our panelists and allow for them to drop in.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jersey Carranza. I'm 19 and I'm still in college, and I've had a very tough time struggling with imposter syndrome. I've had a chance to direct and produce videos for multi-million-dollar homes ranging from $1 to $5 million. And even though clients have hired me again and again, and they tell me they like the videos, I don't really believe it. I think they're not good. And I tell my girlfriend that they're really bad. I'm a perfectionist, I guess. Anyway, recently one of my clients that I worked with for 2 years wanted me to hire me for a rebrand. I put on my confidence cap and agreed on a $95,000 budget on our first meeting. I left very happy. However, for the next 2 weeks, I struggled so hard with my imposter syndrome. I felt like I had lied to everybody to get where I was. I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. And I constantly asked myself, why am I doing this and not my peers from college or high school? This feeling ate me up. And eventually I felt like my confidence dropped so much that that's not why I was able to close the deal. I started to seem risky, and we all know that clients like to go with the least risky option. Even though I had worked with this person for years, I felt like that imposter syndrome, was my downfall. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Jersey. Yeah, we're definitely going to dig into that. But thank you for that share. Thank you for the courage. Would anybody else like to drop in?
I would love to drop in. Hello, everyone. My name is Pape. I'm based in Panama City. I have suffered from imposter syndrome, but now I call it as Keone, I just see it as fear and overthinking. But for years, I feel like the imposter syndrome is so connected to the "you're not good enough" story that it's been like implanted in many of us from comparison and from trying to build a life upon external things, building the ego through what you own or what you do and all of this stuff that is just heavy to carry. And for I feel like 29 years of my life, I denied myself, my true self, and that's the biggest imposter syndrome I've suffered too. And I'm happy to say that after now 31, for the past year, I've been thinking clearly and aligning my thoughts, my feelings, and my words in a way that they empower me and allow me to move forward. So my intention today is sharing a little bit of that experience, a little bit of how I've been able to feel good, because I feel amazing, so amazing that I cry sometimes for how good I feel, and I'm happy about that, and I want everyone else to feel that way, feel the love, feel that you're good enough, So that's my purpose here, and I'm Pape, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you for that, Pape. Powerful share as always. Would anybody else like to drop in?
Yes, I would like to drop in. My name is Britt. I'm located in Berlin, Germany. And what I do, actually, my background basic is science, and I'm leading an interface between science and business, linking Latin America and Germany. And if I have suffered the imposter syndrome, and right now, no, I'm not suffering it, I guess. But when I was young, I guess in my 20s, in my 30s, when I came to Germany, it was more difficult. There was some kind of insecurity. Was more insecurity, was the believing you are not so competent as others are, or you cannot offer a very good product, or you are not so intelligent, not so skilled. So I have not recognized my superpower in that time. I have not recognized my singularity. And I was suffering, trying to overcome it. Right now, I don't have, what I'm fighting now is really to offer my experience in these topics. But I don't have the feeling now. That was when I was young, when I was more insecure about my purpose in the life, why I'm living, should I reach something, I going to marry, I going to have children, what's going to happen with me? So it was more, I'm beauty, I'm not beauty, I'm competent as lady. I don't know, was many things also related with education. The education was not, in my culture, has not empowered ladies. I got empowerment within the life. Yes, this is my experience. Thank you.
Thank you for that share, Hania. Appreciate your courage and the willingness to share that story. Arsenal J, what's up, brother?
What's up? Do you hear me? Because I'm on the different, yeah. So Aleksandar Savic calling from Belgrade, Serbia. I do development and strategy. And regarding the imposter syndrome, I mean, I suffer it for so long. And I think and how does it feel? I think once I read somewhere that it's like, imposter syndrome is like you feeling like a fraud and you constantly like trying to battle with that feeling. But I realized that maybe that feeling is right. And maybe you are fraud to yourself. And to me, overcoming it was just through like being true to yourself and being authentic. So yeah, I'm Aksini and I'm complete.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I think do we have time for one more, Jose? Two more. So we got two more. So we got Tino, and then next panelist, just raise your hand. Tino, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, my name is Tino Garcia from Los Angeles, California. I'm a UX design consultant. And so, yeah, I don't say I suffer from imposter syndrome. I say I live through imposter syndrome, I believe. So, you know, I was suffering from it, but I believe I'm learning to adapt through it now. I, you know, believe I started suffering through it because of, you know, my entire life. So I suffered through it. I was obese as a child. I was obese as a young adult. And then I suffered a disability. So I believe that contributed to my imposter syndrome as well. It seeped in through my career as well. And it always seemed to hold me back in my career. It always made me feel a little bit insecure, made me feel a little unsure of myself. It made me feel shy about my career. And I never understood why, because every time I look back at my work, my resume, and everything else, you know, it always spoke for itself. I always represented myself well with my work and my history, but it never felt like that was me. Like I always felt like it was an outsider doing this, not me. And so, you know, it still happens. It still happens. So what's helping me now is joining a community. Right now it's the Systm. It's even digging deeper now, the Systm Accelerator. So it's helping me even more, going through the hero's journey and finding out my true story and unearthing some of the real feelings and the real me, so that I can really find you know, what it is that is my true essence, what my true superpowers are, so that I can start really digging in and seeing what I can bring out as a passion and my ideal self. So yeah, I believe it never does go away. I believe that's really true, what you mentioned, Keone, in the very beginning, and we lived through it. I don't believe, I believe people feel like they suffered through it, but I believe we should try to rephrase it, and we lived through it. We should try to put a spin on it. At least I try to do that myself in my experience. I'm Tino, and I'm complete.
Thank you for that share, Tino. Lots of insights in that. And the courage to share your story. We're grateful, man. Okay, one more up. Cassie, hey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cassie. I am in Goodyear, Arizona, USA. I am in the Accelerator program right now, and I've been doing these webinars for like a year and a half now. Oh my God. And it's been incredible for me. Imposter syndrome, I never really felt it until I started my business full time. I had been freelancing while working in a corporate PR and digital media job, worked for PR agencies, large corporations, but I never experienced it until I was on my own and no longer getting daily validation from others. So it's taken a lot for me to kind of address like where I'm getting my validation, and I'm working on trying to validate myself. And imposter syndrome, I feel like, is something that you're always going to have when you're growing. And I kind of wonder, like, if I'm in a stagnant position, will I ever have imposter syndrome there? That's a different issue, though. If I'm stagnant, then I'm not happy because I'm not growing. But then I have imposter syndrome because I'm growing. So it's like this cycle. And so trying to like understand why I'm feeling that way has been a big part of my growth. And I think working on the origin story, which is part of the Accelerator program, has, oh man, I've had so many revelations, and it's fueled many discussions with my therapist, that's for sure. So I saw in the comments a lot of people saying that it like ebbs and flows and comes in waves, and I'm certainly relate with that. But I guess it's something we can just live with but minimize. I don't know if it ever goes away. If it goes away for you, can you let me know what you did? But all right, I'm done talking now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Jan, I saw that you had your hand raised. We'll try to weave you into the conversation in a little bit, but what I'd love to do, if you could drop it into the text so that we could all see what your thoughts are, that'd be really awesome. So let's keep this going, guys. So let's talk about this. You know, a lot of us are describing our feelings. So around this, what is imposter syndrome? So here's the definition. Imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Why do we suffer from it? Is it cultural? Is it a lack of confidence in our skills? Is it comparison? Is it a fear of rejection? Is it doubt?
And that's a really good question. I think that everyone in the shares expressed like different ways. And Cassie's, if I'm growing, then that means that I am doing something new. You know, in the first share, you know, we had some. I'm trying to remember your name because you're 19, so age is a big deal, or it's a big part of that, right? I'm always suffering from imposter syndrome because I'm always doing something bigger than what I did before, trying out new things. I'm always in comparison. I'm not this person, or I'm not like the CEO of this company. I don't have like these particular skills. I'm Puerto Rican. Like I grew up in the whatever. Like I have all these kind of things. But I think for me, you know, one of the things that there is a cultural aspect to it for sure. As designers, we are not business people. So, you know, starting a thing, teaching designers business because of my experience running my agency was kind of like, what, you know, who's going to believe me? But then you have to do it over time and share the tools. And community for me has been the real gift, and actually sharing my skills and having other people thrive consistently, right? So I'm excited about Nicole Johnson and the idea of embracing it, meaning saying it up front, like, you know, this is the first time I've done this, I'm growing, I'm learning, being vulnerable and admitting where you have gaps and what you don't know is probably one of the most powerful tools in order to create a great career. People that are, you know, hiring you, that are collaborating with you, that are your friends, that are your partners, etc. You know, when you're vulnerable and you kind of ask for what you need and you say, I need support, I need help, I can't do this, that really opens up the possibility for authentic connection and for being able to do it. So those are my thoughts on, like, we suffer from it because we're growing. If you're not growing, you're not suffering from it. You're at home, you know, having popcorn and watching Netflix. But if you're doing something new, if you're switching from design to strategy or adding that to your quiver, if you're building a business, which you haven't done before, you're always going to be in that mode. And it's okay that you don't know everything. There's a concept called infinite wisdom. All of the wisdom and all the knowledge that you need is available to you in the community, in resources, on YouTube. Then courage to act is what's remaining, and the courage to act for me comes from you, from the community. So that's my thoughts on that. But I'll complete Keone.
So, you know, how do we deal with imposter syndrome? Well, we embrace it. Your story and your cultural heritage is powerful. Your story is unique. We have to continue evolving our skills and our talent. And it's important to remember that You are not for everyone. You're not supposed to be. So the solution is through connected action. It's by working together in community, and that is the key. So one of the ways to really showcase this point is Nicole Johnson and her story. Nicole, um, come up to the stage, and I just want to introduce her real quick. She's a senior
Yeah.
design manager, HMI architecture at Rivian. She's a mentor, she's a speaker, she's a powerful, powerful individual. And I'm just going to shut up now, and I'm going to let Nicole step to the stage.
Before she steps on stage, I'm going to show some OG
Oh no.
pictures of Nicole and I working together.
Oh man.
Oh man, on the UX journey. Anyway, I'll turn them off so that you can share your story.
It's like the older sibling who's just like, look at the picture when you were in the bathtub when you were 5. No. No, thank you guys for the warm welcome. So as kind of Keone and Jose mentioned, I'm longtime friends of both of them, and worked with Jose early on in my UX career as I was kind of going through my pivot point or turning point in life, if you will. Kind of give you a bit of a background on me, like life background. So I'm originally from Chicago. Grew up predominantly in the Midwest between Chicago and Indiana. Both of my parents are musicians. My dad is a saxophone player. My mom's a singer. And so it was always kind of music and creativity kind of lurking in the background of my life. But as I went through and kind of was figuring out what I wanted to do, I ended up really enjoying working on cars. And so through my 2 uncles, my mom's side of the family is Puerto Rican and my dad's side is African American. So my 2 uncles were, on the weekends in my grandmother's driveway, working on something typically. And so I was always kind of interested and curious and taking stuff apart, in fact, and getting in lots of trouble doing that. I remember took apart my mom's stereo as a kid. So yeah, that didn't turn out well. But it was always this kind of desire to work with my hands. And that led to me actually going to automotive school. I remember a lot of people telling me, oh, you should go into nursing or police or whatever. And I'm like, I kind of had a vision in my head. I don't think we can curse in this, but I'm a stubborn blank. So I just kind of did what I wanted to do. So I went and signed up for automotive school, which took me from Chicago to Arizona. And I went to school there for about 2 years. And then it was got into what's called a graduate program for Mercedes-Benz. And I knew I wanted to work on Mercedes even before I had gotten into the program. And so I went through training there and then got hired at a Mercedes dealership. And because I usually can never just do one thing, I simultaneously, as I got hired at Mercedes-Benz Laguna Niguel, I signed up for business school. So I knew that I wouldn't want to work as a mechanic physically forever. I just couldn't see that being me. But I loved cars and I wanted to do that at that point. But I also wanted to have I saw myself at one point working at Mercedes corporate. Like there was literally just a vision in my head of something in the future that I couldn't really put my finger on. And so went to school for 4 years while I was working at the shop. I worked at the shop for 5 years actually. And, met a lot of amazing people, was master certified by the time I left. And then went into kind of a really pivotal moment. Actually, I got fired from the dealership. Long story, more to talk about than we have time for, but that was a pivot point. And that's relevant to the story because of the pivot points that we actually all have throughout life. There's some that are bigger than others. That was a big one for me. And that forced me into, because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my degree. And so I hemmed and hawed for a year. And then that happened. And that was like a shove from the universe, if you will, straight into
go back up to the top.
into basically like working in something else. Didn't know what that was going to be. So obviously I was super kind of freaked out because I had had this certain career for 5 years and I identified myself as a mechanic and so on and so forth. And also I think part of, your pivot points and how you continuously, break down and rebuild yourself is usually how you see yourself. So if you identify as something, I'm a designer, I'm a mechanic, I'm whatever, then it's this process of completely breaking that down and rebuilding into whatever that next thing might be. And for some of us,
How did you get into UX? Like, what was the thing that said, oh, I'm going to go do UX?
that I'm getting there. So I ended up working at a consulting firm. And from there, I ended up getting a job in a consulting firm. And from there, I had an idea for an app. It was a music app. And I didn't tell anyone for about a month. And during that month time, I was doing what I didn't realize was wireframes. And I was doing it in Microsoft Paint. Nobody judged me. So I told one of my colleagues, and she really liked the idea, so much so that she was even more into business than I was. And she kind of took off with it and was like, we should do a startup. And so for that next year and a half, we ended up getting some funding. We ended up, getting into like the music industry, finding an investor and so forth, and finding a designer and a developer. That was the catalyst into user experience. That was one of the first times I heard user experience, didn't really understand it. So I started teaching myself as we were doing the startup, which is not advised, but it was crash course into UX. After we totally crashed and burned, learned a whole bunch from doing that first startup, that was the next pivot point into, I really like this UX thing. I don't think I fully understand it, but I think it was one of the reasons I didn't fully understand what to do with my startup. And so from there, went into teaching myself. I had a partner at the time who was in design school. She was teaching me a lot with typography and colors and all of that, which was just design fundamentals, but I was also teaching myself about user experience. And then I came across this gentleman here, Jose, on the, what was it? Oh my God, what was it called?
This Week in Web Design.
This Week in Web Design. I was thinking This Week in Startups, that's why I want to say it. So This Week in Web Design, where he was talking about user experience. And I think I followed him on Facebook and so forth. Long story short, ended up coming back to Los Angeles to do the GA UX program, kept following him and seeing lots of videos and events and such. And there was an event coming up, went to that one. And it was the first time I saw UX being done in a way that made sense to me. It was taking the theoretical stuff I was learning at GA, but applying it and through design thinking and through facilitation. And so I went to a couple more of his events. And at that point I asked if he would be my mentor, not having any idea what that would actually mean. I legit thought it would just be coffee once a month if I was lucky. And it ended up being an apprenticeship. And that apprenticeship was kind of the next turning point into really working with full-on clients, startups, going from zero to launch, going from, redesigns and pivots and so forth. So that was where I learned a lot of the craft of design thinking and design facilitation. And then from there, I really wanted to continue working on products, but Chris and Jose wanted to move forward into more of the teaching and the coaching and building up the kind of the network of designers to kind of help teach designers for the next generation.
Yeah, the school. We were building the school, so I was doing less consulting and focusing more on the school. Yeah.
And so I wanted to work.
You actually did the little known fact. Nicole actually did the slides for the first version of Core.
That's true. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, at that point I was having fun learning about how to build like programs and things like that, but I also kind of wanted to work on big projects and see what that was like. Because we had done mostly startups, mid and, small to mid-level startups. And so switched gears and kind of ended up getting hired at Icon Mobile, which is a global innovations firm based in Germany, but also have an office here in Santa Monica. And they do user experience for a lot of connected products and working with brands like Procter & Gamble and things like that. But they also—
How was that jump? How was that jump up going from doing startups with me and like the thing to actually working at an agency?
That was another transition. And I have some comments on imposter syndrome regarding that, but I'm kind of saving those for the end if I can save those.
Yeah, you have like a minute.
Okay, cool. So basically for the last 6 years, I had been working with Icon Mobile. The interesting thing about Icon is they have automotive user experience as a component. So it was another full circle moment of my automotive world coming back into play. And then Rivian, where I am now, was an even more culmination because it's more working on the engineering side of user experience combined with, my automotive knowledge and UX knowledge kind of coming together. The piece about imposter syndrome that I could say is, I feel like it's a Venn diagram. if you can imagine, experience, knowledge, and then also your own personal self-talk, and how you talk to yourself. And in the middle of that, like that sweet spot is your perception of your worthiness. And I felt like as I was going through, some of it was just blind, not giving a crap about other people's kinds of perceptions and all of that, and just kind of being myself and realizing that people liked who I was when I was just being myself. Some of it was just blind stumbling through something and not really caring too much what people thought about it. But I did have my moments 100% where, yeah, that is the electric car. I did have my moments where I realized that I had to like change the way I was talking to myself, because the way I talk to myself, I'm with myself all the time. So if I talk to myself in a way where I feel like I'm being authentic to myself and being worthy and understanding that I am worthy, then it changes the way people are perceiving me. And that is a cultural piece, as Jose mentioned, where in Latin families, it's always like, you can't, whatever, like kind of thing. Like, and it's meant to be a joke, but if you're hearing that from a childhood all the way to adulthood, you begin to believe it's true. So it's the matter of kind of going back and reteaching yourself and almost like reparenting yourself to be, the things that you didn't hear. And I think that has a lot to do with it. The experience and the knowledge that comes, that's always going to come no matter what. But how you talk to yourself is like the piece that is all up to you. And so I think that's, I'll end with that. But I'm sure there's other things to talk about on that note. Oh, one last piece actually. Cassie mentioned something that I think is important, and Jose added to that, and I'll add one last piece, is you're literally never not experiencing some form of imposter syndrome if you're growing and learning, because you're almost experiencing different versions of yourself. And if you look back 5 or 10 years ago, you were literally a different human than you are now. And that's actually the point, like literally the point of life. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Nicole. I think your journey is amazing. You have so much courage, and I think the secret ingredient, you mentioned it there, but I want to make sure I point it out: authenticity. I mean, one of the things that we did together, and we did our own core together with each other. You ended up doing some of the personal development work that I did and recommended, and there's this. You always carry the sense of real, like you're never like another persona. You're always you in a very like. In a very present way. So no matter what the issue is, if you feel enough, if you don't feel worthy, and then you act so, like it becomes like a persona of it. For me as a young man, in my 30s, especially in my late 30s, a lot of it was in the form of like huffing and puffing and overinflating myself a little bit, and like having ego in how I related to other people. And it took some time, especially in the last, 7 years of doing a lot of work, that you do in your journey, to kind of figure out that there's nothing to prove, that you are, you are who you are, you're perfect as you are. That concept is crazy inside corporate or inside a company, because it's about skills and it's about execution and output, but accepting the individual exactly where they are and having compassion and guiding them through the learning and through the work has been a practice for me in everything I've done, in the building of the community. Instead of doing it with the harshness of expectation and like, performance and like you need to be this person or get to these things, is what are the gaps and how do we fill them in? And I think you embody authenticity, love, and connection in a real powerful way. So thank you for sharing your story.
Well, thank you for that. And one thing to add to what you just said is what I noticed is when you show up as who you are, as long as you're showing up authentically as yourself, literally it gives people no choice but to kind of to get into that as well. Like they show up as themselves, and you start to see kind of people's facades start to fall off. It might take some time depending on who the person is, but it's really interesting to try it as an experiment to just show up as you are and, watch how people have no choice but to do that as well.
Yeah, thank you for that, Nicole. 2 snaps for Nicole. Thank you so much for that. So yeah, let's go ahead. Was that? Do you want to add something?
No, just thanks for having me. I appreciate, yeah, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. You've always been, you've been an inspiration for me. As a person of color, being in the space, and really being able to create a lane for yourself is the key. And so many of the stories that, um, inspire me are how our authenticity really creates a lane. But let's dive into this slide and let's talk a little bit about confidence and gaining confidence. So one of the things that is really powerful about Nicole's share is she created her own story, like she crafted her lane. And, what I want to talk to you guys about is, why does creating your own story help create confidence? It's because everybody has purpose and their purpose is unique. And discovering that you're the hero of your own story is the first step. Sort of how Nicole was talking about how she had to talk to herself. She had to look at the way that she had these conversations with herself. And then identifying your superpower while you refine, your skills. That's your authenticity. And these are the ways that we can, have confidence in our value. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a group exercise. Fun time, y'all. We're going to do a group story building exercise. This is a very light version of part of what we do in the Accelerator program. And the way that it works is we're going to tell our story in 3 acts. Now, the hero's journey, it follows 3 basic principles. You have the call to action, you have the challenges, and then you have the discovery of your superpowers and how we acquire it. So I did an example for myself in this, and Jose has posted the link in the chat. So for the panelists that'd like to go on board or hop on.
Yeah, everybody who's on stage, come on in and participate. I'm going to start myself.
Yeah. So the call is your entry into your story. And the call happens when you become aware that you are different, that you are unique. And with that comes a call to some sort of journey, to embark in some sort of way. For Nicole, it was this idea of, this app that she wanted to build. And in that, she was like, oh my gosh, there's this thing that's called UX, and it incited her. Like, that was a call for her to enter into this journey. And she answered the call. She was like, okay, let me find out what that looks like. Now, challenges. How did you develop the new skills? Like, what were her challenges? So in Nicole's story, the challenge was really developing the skill set and the understanding behind it. And her challenge was, how do I find and develop my skills, and how do I align it with my story and my authenticity, so that I could become a powerful individual in this space. I could become a leader in UX. And for that, some of the challenges she had was like finding a mentor. She found Jose, building the skill set. She went to General Assembly. She had friends that she was learning the fundamentals of design around, and developing those skills to a point where she would be able to kind of step out and step into her own true power, which she was able to do, right? Going through Icon mobile and developing UX and exploring the automotive components or the automotive side of UX. And that was her ability to, to come back with the superpower. She was like, oh, Rivian, here I come. And now she's at Rivian doing her thing. So, we all have these 3 basic acts in our story. In the Accelerator program, we actually break it down into more chapters. And so you can actually kind of anchor into how you progress through these steps. But, very, very powerful exercise. And I think it's a key in being able to anchor into your value, to have confidence behind your skills, to have confidence behind your impact, to have confidence the way that you can facilitate and connect with, whether it's collaborators, co-creators, clients, and community. All of these things are super important.
Let's go into the Mural Board, Keone, like a
Yeah.
sports podcast. This is like Formula One or soccer.
Yeah.
So here's some of the people. Pape, when I decided to
Mhm.
make a living out of art, is when you realized you were other. You know, for me, it was my business, my agency. Since I was creative and not necessarily a startup person or a, business person, I was like, wait a minute, I'm not, the traditional kind of creative, and that's the case for almost anybody who decides to start a business, because you build something that's unique to you. But I'm talking about my journey, not at the beginning when I was a kid. I'm talking about the journey of building the school and building, all of the community part of my career. It really came from the pain of and the challenges of building my own business. And I'm like, you know what, somebody needs to, and I also saw that the future, because there were so many freelancers globally, I read it in a book and it was like, oh my God, so many people are going to struggle with this issue that you have to become adept at strategy, at user experience, at product architecture, because everything is going digital. And this was all in 2000, 2006. The idea started germinating in my mind about building the school. And it wasn't until 2012 that I planned it, I worked on it, I took the time to kind of learn video and like talking. I did This Week in Web Design because one of my advisors said, you need to become an expert. And I couldn't write a book because of my ADD being so powerful. I said, let me just get on, YouTube and talk for an hour. So for me, that was the beginning of the journey. Personal development and other aspects were triggers. Also, like, be who you are meant to be and don't be afraid of taking those jumps and those leaps was something that happened at that age also. So I'm a mid-career pivot. And for the most part, a lot of people outside of my industry, including Chris Doe, have seen me as like, ooh, what the hell are you doing, man? You're crazy. And because of that, because I've always been in the space of I'm doing something crazy, I live with like, oh, can I do this as a question all the time? In this case, Mary, who's been a longtime partner and a catalyst for, in support of the ideas, she went to Consensus, to a blockchain incubator where they were trying to solve that problem of how do people work together. And I went there also before her, and I was able to witness the challenges firsthand of how difficult it is to create ideas and to move ideas forward. So the system is really a result of all of the challenges. Literally everything that the system is about is because of the challenges of the previous thing. The system is, what does it take to make, the future work? And by the future, I mean with an E, not without the E. Like, how are we going to work? Now that we're doing it remote, how do we have to facilitate? What skills do we have to learn? Authenticity is a super big part of it. Owning our own story, being in community is a really big part of it. So let's look at a few, and then let's move on. It's 11:53. We're going to end at 12:30. So we have about 5 more minutes or 6 more minutes in this exercise. Do you people want to share them themselves, like their story, like Porsche, when I was mulling, Adriana, for me, is at the moment of transition, or Keone, you can read some of these and like,
So let's dive into some of these. We've got Amit, and he talks about when he started to realize that he was other. He said, after working in advertising and films for more than 6 years, I realized there was something more that I wanted to do, something more transformative.
Where is it? Sorry.
He is right underneath other ? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm diving into the next component of his story, like how did he develop new skills? What were his challenges? Yeah. He said, I was out on vacation with my family when my best friend said that they were looking for new UI designers, but it's been difficult to find any good prospects. So I proposed that I could join. She discussed it with her boss, and they felt that I would be suited for UX rather than just UI design. I was anxious about changing jobs and shifting cities, but they were helpful in facilitating everything. And he learned a lot by myself. Powerful, man. Thank you for that share.
How did he develop his skills?
That's fun. Yeah. Where is our synergy? Okay. Through the community, through the fact that I started to be part of the system, through the fact that I unmuted myself, by leaving the cave and being who I am, the biggest challenge is integration and being grounded after I figured it all out. Mm, Powerful share. Mark. So Mark, he developed his skills through internet courses, YouTube, reading, and the challenges that he has is using the time productively and getting a thirst to learn more. Yeah, learning
That's a
more.
really big one. Like, you consume so much content, but really ultimately, how do you put it into action? Because that's the way. I don't learn from consuming content. I literally don't look at YouTube videos unless I need to figure out how to do something. I learn by doing it. So that's my unfortunate curse.
So Jersey, he said, I knew I needed to learn more about filmmaking being so young and posted about my work. So luckily he got noticed by two realtors and they hired him to film for them. They taught him about the industry and showed him about film. And the challenge was that he had no money for gear. Yeah. And then we've got Cliff here, right next to him. He developed new skills by breaking the rules when working at Hot 97 and while discovering the future. Powerful. Beautiful. Porsche. I have been hustling and I needed to make enough money for electricity, food, and my siblings' tuition and allowance. After they graduated and we've gone on to work together. My challenge was working with other people because I was so used to working on my own. Yeah, that's a key one. Yeah. How did you solve that, Porsche? There she go. Relentlessness and eagerness to learn and try new things. My whole experience was an experiment without a guide until I discovered this school. Mm. Thank you for that share, Porsche. Yeah, Cassie. How did she discover her skills and talents? I discovered that I had resilience, and that's not something everyone has. I became the fix-it woman at my job, someone who was willing to put in a little effort to find solutions. I found that I had a talent for synthesizing information and developing a plan, and following through by working the plan. To summarize, I embraced my creativity. Mm.
I love Roxanne. Curiosity.
Yeah. Where's Roxanne? Yeah. Roxana, through curiosity, learning, community, and bridging gaps by design. Thank you for that, Roxana. This is beautiful. From Sergio, strategic thinking for life, agile, fast learning, and combining business and design.
That's a good segue also, too.
Yeah.
So the ideas are, the call is that moment that you have, I have to do this, and you answer by taking the leap of doing it. The challenge is you're gonna have challenges on the journey. Darth Vader is a perfect example of that. That's the Dark Father. The challenges of the patriarchy, the challenges of the trauma from our past. And in order to overcome, Luke has to vanquish his father. But he learns. Star Wars is perfect. He learns that you have to collaborate with a bunch of weirdos. One dude that looks like a dog, a princess, a crazy guy that's always that drives a spaceship, and some robots. He basically brings together a tribe. Luke basically does everything to a tribe. But this exercise is super beautiful. My superpower, Mark is saying, is once I commit to doing something, I gotta ham up. I go ham. I don't know what ham means, but and loves producing high quality.
Hard
results.
as a.
Okay. Improvising and experimenting. Cliff, building the individual. So by doing, I'm constant. I am recursive. So it sounds like some people have very clear clarity of their superpowers. Pape, pictoplasm, writing my own story. Love that feeling, creative and flow. So once you're self-aware of where your gifts come from your journey, there's so much power in that. And I think that's a really good segue in confidence through self-discovery. So really that exploration. Thank you everyone who participated. in the mural. We'll post the mural in the Accelerator so that everyone can see their story, or in the Facebook group too, so that other people can see it actually. If you're not in the Facebook group, I got to figure out how to get the links in here. Maybe Mauricio, you could put the links for the Facebook group. Keone, take it away.
Yeah. So, we believe that we can find confidence through self-discovery. Understanding your story gives you purpose and passion, and it's your why. Your purpose, cause, and beliefs, they need a narrative. So what better narrative is there than our own journey?
Maybe out of order, but why don't we let Sergio talk a little bit about how his process of creating his story before we go into the Accelerator. We give Sergio 5-6 minutes to talk about his process. Sergio, are you up for that?
Yeah, sure. So can you go like a few slides further?
Well, let me introduce you. Sergio Ariza, brand strategist, Accelerator member, and the son that Steve Jobs never knew he had. A brilliant mind and an amazing soul. We are super proud to have him as part of our community. And I remember the first time I saw him, I was like, oh, I know you. You're amazing. And it was just the energy and the spirit that he brings to everything he does. So I will shut up and let Sergio talk.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction, Jose. Jose's like my idol, and being here and being his friend is like super crazy for me. I still can't wrap my head around that, but life happens if you put the work. So let's put the work together. Can you go another slide, please? Because I have like the three main, okay, here we go. So this is what came up from the Accelerator cohort number 1. Okay, so basically we were crafting our stories, like digging deeper into self-knowledge, self-awareness, and being able to tell your story in a way that empowers you. So before that, I already had like a clue of the things that I like, the clients that I want to get, that have the life that I want to live. But the Accelerator program, the thing is that it's like the same thing that we've been doing for a year and a half, but super condensed. So in a month, you go like from 0 to 100 real quick. I mean, Keone makes you go like this. And also you have a lot of people supporting you along the way and doing the exercises with you. So what could have taken me like 4, 5, 6 months to do, like my mission statement, knowing my values, knowing my non-negotiables, like having clarity on the kind of problems that I solve and the services that I offer to solve those problems. All of that takes time. If you do it on your own, if you like, I don't know, dedicate the Sunday mornings to it, with lucky. But in the Accelerator program, I mean, the name is obvious. It accelerates you, And now the powerful thing of knowing your story is that imposter syndrome disappears. Actually, it disappears. Before this whole year and a half journey, I was super insecure of myself because I was thinking I'm too young to be a strategist. I'm too young to have my own business. I'm too young to get my own clients. I do not have like a college degree because I dropped out college because that didn't work for me. What else? I burned in Venezuela, so maybe nice things are not for me because it's crazy down there, and I had a hard life growing up. I was making up excuses, and I was constructing arguments to justify that I was an imposter, that I didn't deserve like doing good work, having nice clients, having nice stuff. And knowing your story just makes you get rid of all of it. I was a bit cynical before meeting Jose, the system, and all the family, because I was super skeptical with the community thing, with the tribe thing. But I have to say I was super wrong about it. I mean, it's really important to have people who resonates with your story and who supports you in the journey, because otherwise you cannot do it. I mean, you cannot do it alone, especially in the world that we are living now. It's super hard to do it on your own. So that's like the core value of this. Like, you know, discovering a bunch of weirdos on the internet that helps you go through shit and, you know, crafting your story along the way and getting the good clients. Because now I'm just full of ideas, full of energy, and with clarity to implement like stuff to get, you know, my business going, my goals going. I'm just feeling just happy overall, just realized overall. I think this has been one of the best decisions that I've made. Like dropping college and joining the tribe, those are like the two biggest decisions that I made on my life, and I don't regret each of them. So I think that's it. I'm Sergio and I'm complete. Shoot me an email if you want to know how to drop college like a boss.
That's going to be a kit, how to drop out of college, by Sergio Arisa. Just want to thank you. And then I'm going to hand it over to Keone. You know, this is we love the community. So this is really about how can we impact more people. So if you've been thinking about it, Keone is going to share a little bit of information about the Accelerator program and an offer that we have for August for you. So here we go. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah, y'all. So, you know, what's next? We'd like for you to invite you guys to come join us in the Accelerator program. We are setting up our second cohort, and it will be starting next week. So if this is something that you're interested in, we'd love to have you join us. Here's just an example of what it looks like inside the platform. And as you can see, it's more than just the work that we're doing to help us build confidence and identify our purpose, to help us define our brand and to learn the process of collaboration and co-working together. We also have additional support. So if you're looking to build out your rate cards, or if you're looking for mural templates, what do creative briefs look like, stylescapes and style guides. Within the platform, we are sharing all of the documentation that we have created, all of the assets that we have used in our careers, the deliverables that we have provided for other clients, for you to be able to see them. And not only to see them in different verticals. For example, I have a lot of experience in cannabis, but for things like very large engagements. We recently did a rebrand for everyone. What does the creative briefs for a company of that size look like? Right? How can I feel confident in being able to create deliverables that I know that my client will be proud and excited to see, and will feel impactful? We have all of those elements that are here in the Accelerator program. So it's more than just the acceleration for where you are now, but it's also how can we continue to support you as you grow in your business and in your career. So right now we have an offer through Monday. And if you sign up for the Accelerator program, you will get 10% off on your first month. The Accelerator program is $150 a month. And let me go ahead, $125 a month. And you can sign up right here at jointheaccelerator.com/sign-up. And we're going to put that link right there in the chat. And yeah, we'd love to see you. We're putting together the second cohort, and we're going to have our first meeting on Tuesday. If it's a bit quick for you, no worries. Everything is recorded. There are replays for all of the work that we're doing. And it's exciting. It's exciting to be in a community that really acknowledges you and sees you for who you are, that supports you through all of the challenges. And it's a wild group to be in. You know, we hang out, you know, after hours, we watch shows together, we drink wine, we play music. Like, it's a community of support, it's a community of nurturing, and it's absolutely a community of growth. So yeah, guys.
Well, we're gonna slow it down and like let everyone share. I think I'm gonna repeat the offer, you know, till Monday. You have that. We'll send out an email with the replay to everyone on the mailing list. But you know, we do something called music and no cookies in our broadcast, and I think it would be a good opportunity just to have people kind of share what they got out of today's webinar, and just follow Accelerating Gender. follow up the learning. The learning comes from all of us. You know, what did you take away from today and from what we've shared? What can we repeat? Is there any ideas or concepts? I also want to thank Sergio and Nicole. Nicole is an amazing example of like what community does for a career. She's powerful in what she's been able to create in general. So I am going to put music in no cookies and let it flow.
So we had Jan that had her hand raised earlier, and we're definitely going to connect Jan, but I'd love for you to speak. Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay, cool. It's actually pronounced Jan.
Jan. Excuse me, Jan.
No, don't worry about it. You're not the first and you won't be the last. So you're in good company. Don't worry about it. So just
welcome to the stage. You've got the mic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I guess the thing is that I'm just trying to, I'll try and make this really quick, is when I first got out of school, I got laid off twice within 2 years. And I had a really bad agency experience where my boss went through a midlife crisis and was just verbally really abusive. And so I kind of just said, I will never go and work for anybody ever again. I was just like, I am never, ever going to go do that again. I could never do that. So I freelanced for about 6 years. And because I just was not going to do it. I just was never going to go through that experience again. And it was really great. I worked on a lot of different accounts. I did a lot of different stuff, but I never all of this work was just kind of like all over the place. So I was never ever really to thread together a process, you know, and I always felt like exactly like an imposter syndrome. I was always kind of like going, okay, I've got this new challenge. What do I do? You know, how do I figure this out? And so generally I was able to think well enough on my feet to kind of figure it out. And then I started my own business in the mid to late 2000s, and the global financial crisis happened. And then that really wiped me out. That was pretty tough for me. And then I went back and got a job as an ACD at a global aerospace company. And that was a really great experience because I didn't really kind of understand process and leadership. I understood it just enough to be able to do the job, and my work as a designer and an art director was really solid. So that kind of helped me be able to kind of get into, be effective at what I did. And then I kind of got into this, I never really felt comfortable with what I was doing. I never really felt like, again, just the imposter syndrome. I sort of had all these experiences and woven them together as best I could. And then I just got really burnt out in agency. I just was like, we're just in the business. And so then I went back and got a master's degree in urban studies. And I was going to go in and get a PhD because I just needed to do something completely different. I was just like, I'm done with this. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm tired of the clients. I'm tired of the bullshit. I'm tired of not being able to get work sold. And what was really great about that experience was it was actually, and I wanted to go back for sustainability, or I went back for economic sustainability because I wanted to do something I was really passionate about and I felt strongly about. But I realized through this process, after the first year, which was an amazing experience, it was like intellectually challenging, it was emotionally challenging to go from being a creative director and an artistic person to being a social scientist, basically. Learning a social scientist certain set of skills. And I remember I was thinking to myself, I remember thinking to myself, wait a second, first off, I really missed being creative. And I realized through that process that, you know, I'm never going to be a researcher, writing papers, doing dissertation, you know, I'm never going to go into, that's just not who I am. I'm just not that. But I thought to myself, but there are all these social science research techniques about really understanding people that I can apply towards my design. And how do I do that? How do I make my work meaningful and not just arbitrary and not just based on, how do I create a standard, some criteria to be able to make better decisions and recommendations from. So that kind of really, and then I was out of school for a while. So then UX was really coming in at that time. And I was like, okay, I got to really get back on my UX skills. And I was getting my master's degree in Portland. And then I kind of came back and I was like, okay, I'm a creative. That's who I am. This was a great process. But I have to figure out how I can do creative in a way that I enjoy and and create work that's meaningful and that's just purposeful. I don't want to, I'm just tired of, and that's actually when I started. And then I got this job as a creative director at a marketing agency here in Long Beach. And this is really when I started to learn about the future and Christo and your work, Jose, and your strategy, the core stuff. And I was like, wait a second, this is the framework or a framework that I need to be able to put all this social science research together, all this UX education that I've gotten and all this stuff. And it's been like this incredible springboard to be able to make sense of this process that I just never really quite, I kind of did it in bits and pieces, but I just didn't know how to string it together. But I still feel like I'm learning it. And I just still feel like, I don't know, I get into meetings and I just get nervous. And it's just so frustrating because I've been in meetings where I just nailed it. I mean, I just nailed it. I was like, I just came in there, I was like, what the fuck am I gonna say at this meeting? How the hell am I gonna sell this? And then I just sort of say, just focus on what you know, focus on, the process. And I had the first day when I got that job as the ACD or the CD at that marketing agency, or it was like the second week there, we had to present, or it was a month, actually it was a month later. And we had this big presentation and I was just like, I had to show them mood boards, stylescapes. And I was just like, I was like having a panic attack. I was just like, this is ridiculous. I don't know, I'm just gonna totally screw this up and I'm gonna get fired. And that's it. And they're gonna find out that I'm this big imposter. And I just nailed it. It was just like amazing. It was like, and everybody was like, I was the hero. And I'm thinking, so I can do this. I do this, but how do I do this regularly? How do I do this consistently? Because then we would have other meetings and I wasn't on my game. I just wasn't able to do it as well. So I don't know if it was just sort of that inertia that was kind of going on, but there's like all this inner saboteur and chatter. And it's just like, I'm sick of this. I'm just so tired of this crap. How do I figure this out? How? I don't know what to do. Sometimes I can just really do it well. And then I just get really nervous and I'm thinking, they're all gonna see I'm a sham. They're all gonna see I don't know what I'm doing. So I don't know, I just sort of vomited this all out. So thanks for listening.
Beautiful share. And we're at 12:18. We're gonna land the plane fairly shortly. But first of all, I wanna thank you for sharing that. And I'm gonna share a secret. I'm gonna share something that, I don't usually will say out loud, in public too much. But, whatever project you're doing or I'm doing, especially this recent kind of everyone project, I have a set of tools and ideas and research and, frameworks and different things. Yeah. And I really count on the people around me. So, my practice and how I built my agency was, hiring talented designers and teaching them what I knew, like just sharing, like, okay, this is that. So I've always been teaching and sharing. And part of leadership is really getting everybody on the same page. And, the decks are my superpower. Like, when you walk into a big engagement, it's like, okay, here's the process that we're going to use. Mary and I just did this recently for a project that Mary has that we're in the process of going through and working with a new client. and you build the approach and you think it through on a deck and you present it to the client. This is the plan. And it's like being a pirate, right? Like you need a map, you need like where the treasure is and what the steps are. You need a crew. Like, you know, I have so many people around me for accountability and for, you know, sharing. I have a coach, you know, and he helped me identify my saboteurs and what are the things that I need to look at, you know, as I'm going through the journey. You know, I can say that I Jack Sparrow everything, that I just go from thing to thing, like intuitively. But the truth is that I anchor into the tools that I've learned, you know, in leading teams, right? And not everything goes right all the time. I have to adjust and pivot. Things like go sideways all the time. So there's a rule at Burning Man. Everything is going sideways all the time. There is no perfect, like, oh, everything is fluid. How you show up and how you stay, you know, grounded and in equanimity to what's happening, and you solve the problem, not the people. That creative director or that person that you had that was going through some issues and was super like harsh and like an ass, you know, that is an example of someone who doesn't understand that you don't necessarily, you know, it's not about like, you know, telling people what to do and yelling at people. It's about solving the problem, objective-based negotiation. What do we need to accomplish? And getting the input from the people around you. These webinars are co-created with all of these beautiful people in our community in a yes and, you know, mode where you listen and you kind of do the things. Keone was sharing with me how he did that with the Accelerator program in terms of formatting and reformatting the way that we were delivering it. So there is a acknowledgement that you don't know everything. There is an acknowledgement that the community has infinite wisdom embedded into it. There's an acknowledgement that your co-creators contribute a huge deal of input, support, energetic kind of like, you know, work. And most of us as creators have the tendency to do it all by ourselves. You know, we hole up in our studios and in our, you know, office rooms on Zoom, and like, we don't connect to other people. Ultimately, as the background that I'll pin it, that Roxana has, connection is the currency. Ultimately, confidence for us as a community comes from being together and from knowing that, you know, everyone has each other's back, and trust. That's my share. Leadership ultimately is the ability to ride those crazy, you know, sideways all the time kind of things, using the tools that you have, setting the roadmap and the dates, having people that help you remain accountable, and a team that you trust. And it's never going to change. Every CEO that I've worked with, when you get in private into the room with them, they're like, shit, you know, I don't know, like, what do we do? And, you know, I help facilitate, listen, understand, and create a roadmap and give them the vision and the tools to be able to do that. And that's my desire and the gift that I hope to give every single person in this community and around us, you know, to share collectively, because it's a collective effort. You know, I brought Mary onto the project we were doing to help me manage the teams, because she's way better than me at that, right? You know, Keone runs the broadcast, and, you know, was running the Accelerator. Like, there's this aspect of doing things in community and like really being in a container of connection that allows everything to happen, because our careers are always going to be like that. I talk to you, especially my friends that are now in their mid-career, all the time about what do they do now. You know, they're figuring out in their 40s and 50s what to do, start agencies. You know, I've done some crazy things, like, you know, start to school, which is not the future, and, you know, teach around the world, do these broadcasts and webinars, all these things. That's a different path, right? But every path is valid as long as you are able to create your own story, and as long as you're able to, I'll go back to Sergio's slide. I mean, Sergio's clarity, and this might change. You know, we did this in an experiment a few years ago where we actually did our own core and did our one sheets. And, you know, if you have clarity as to the container that you want to create, and for whatever amount of time you travel in it, it really helps. So that's my share for you. And
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, and know that it's never going to change. It's always going to be crazy.
Thank you.
It's like a pirate journey. It's like,
I love that. Pirate. I love that.
Pape raised his hand. Let's.
Yeah, I would also like to share because Jersey was saying like, does it go away or not? And in my experience, is the feeling might not go away, but the framing that I have for the, I don't call it imposter syndrome anymore. As I said, I just call it fear. And through my journey, I have a character for fear. His name is Phoebe. He's my friend. He guides me through challenges. And is that we're always aiming for growth. And I feel that that is so embedded in our psychology to always keep moving and growing and building up, you know? But when you want to grow, you have to look somewhere to something that you want. And sometimes building up the expectations and just focusing on the expectations is what hunts you down. That's when phobia turns into a monster. And if you decide to run away from it, it will become guilt, and it will just keep behind you until you accept the call to adventure and you make it happen. And with all that, for me in my journey, what has come to is understanding that, like, I don't own anything. I don't own my work at all. And I've been working a lot in detaching from that idea of it is mine and I own it and I will present myself, and because my work is just an extension of something that I do. So I don't attach my identity just to my work, because I'm so much more than that, you know, and at the end I'm nothing at all. And that it gets tricky there, but it actually allows me to get into conversations without wanting to be right, without wanting to like show people like, you know, here I am and this is what I'm saying, and if you don't believe me, then you're wrong. Because I feel that in corporate, and once you start doing core, it's like managing people's expectations and managing how we can all come together to kill a problem and solve people. That's something that was said in the clubhouse that it has stick on my mind, and it's just how can I put myself in service, because the idea of me doesn't matter as much as what I can do for someone else, you know. And that for me is the framework and the customer matrix. Once you start turning someone need into a value proposition, that for me is the definition of love, and that's where you start connecting the dots. And I'm proud, and I just turned 31 last Friday, and I'm so happy and proud of myself of like being present and happy with what I got, you know. And I'm not afraid of fear anymore, and that gives me this inner peace that I don't have everything figured out, and I don't have to have everything figured out. If there's a problem, I'll find a solution. If I don't find a solution, I have this amazing community. We meet every single week, and I can sit down in the hot seat, say, I don't know how to fix it. Can you help me discover myself and be my mirrors so I can find the solution, you know? So it does get better, and it's better together, you know. Look at this warm, beautiful people, you know. It's amazing, and I'm glad to be here.
We love you, Pape.
I have a question, Jose, about this link between a shy personality and the imposter syndrome. What you say about it? What you can say?
At 1 o'clock, I'm doing a clubhouse with Christo about introverts and extroverts, and I'll talk a little bit about that in there. But we're up. It's 12:30, so wanted to wrap right on time and be mindful of people's. We started at 10 minutes late, so we can go for another few minutes. But you know, I know a lot of shy people around me, with the exception of Keone, who's super extroverted. I'll let Arsena J answer the question. Arsena J, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to share something, a story from the yesterday, and like being part of this community for 7 months. I learned so many things, but I think one of the biggest things that I learned that I think is really connected in a big way to imposter syndrome is that switch from me to we. And I think yesterday was like I was feeling like a shit, and I was feeling about that in part because of imposter, you can say, because of like trying to solve problems on my own, and these problems were in part connected to project and in part connected to personal stuff. But then, you know, it was like we had our own like gathering from people here, and I just decided that I will stop working and just go there, even though I was not feeling it. And yeah, being there on the hot seat was like exactly what I needed. And yeah, after that, I just realized like how in a sense like we are addicted to that idea of me. But I'm really like especially in the last few days, like realizing that I feel like it's impossible to do it without we. So yeah, just embracing it. And when grounded it since I was grounded in my story, I don't feel that becoming we is threatening me, but rather that is growing me. So yeah, I'm asking and I'm complete.
Thank you, Arseniye.
We is the new me. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us today. We had a ton of fun putting this together for you guys. We're going to put more content like this out there, and we're excited to kind of help you guys address a lot of these challenges that we deal with as professional creatives, both in our personal and professional careers. So, join the Accelerator. It's an incredible community. It's where we can actually give you a lot of these the tools that we've used in our own personal lives and within our own community, and where you guys can join us. The discount is Accelerate Me, capital A, and we'd love to see you there. And as always, I just want to remind you guys that you guys are powerful creatives. You guys are limited only by your imagination. And through community, anything is possible. Take care, y'all. Peace.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for participating. I'll do Mauricio. Bye. And then we'll do the after party when we stop recording.